May 1, 1960. A U-2 spy plane glides at 70,000 feet. Over the Soviet Union so high the pilot can see the curvature of the Earth. Suddenly, a Soviet SA-2 missile explodes nearby. The plane tumbles from the sky. Pilot Gary Powers parachutes into captivity, sparking an international crisis that shatters U.S.-Soviet relations. But even as the U-2 fell, a more audacious spy plane was already on the drawing board, one that would fly 3 times faster than a rifle bullet, its skin glowing cherry red from air friction. This is the story of 2 aircraft that redefined the limits of aviation during humanity's most dangerous confrontation. Historical context: the Cold War wasn't fought with armies, it was fought with information. After World War II, America needed eyes inside the closed Soviet Union. Satellites didn't exist yet. Traditional spycraft was risky. The solution had to come from the sky. Enter 2 aircraft from Lockheed's secretive Skunk Works division, led by engineering legend Kelly Johnson. Their mission: build planes that couldn't be seen, couldn't be caught, and couldn't be shot down. The U-2, the high road. Kelly Johnson's first solution was elegant in its simplicity. Go so high that nothing can touch you. The U-2, developed in complete secrecy in 1954, looked more like a glider than a spy plane. Its wingspan was longer than a 727's, but it weighed less than a station wagon. The key was altitude 70,000 feet above any Soviet fighter or missile range. But flying at the edge of space created bizarre challenges. At that altitude, the atmosphere is so thin that the plane had to fly within 10 knots of stalling. Pilots called it the envelope too slow, and you'd drop from the sky too fast, and the wings would tear off. They wore full pressure suits, essentially astronaut gear. The U-2's cameras could read newspaper headlines from 13 miles up. From 1956 to 1960, they flew undetected over the USSR, photographing missile sites, nuclear facilities, and military bases. President Eisenhower called the intelligence invaluable. Then came May Day, 1960. The U-2 crisis. The Soviets had been trying to shoot down a U-2 for years. On May 1, 1960, they got lucky. A salvo of 14 SA-2 missiles exploded near Gary Powers' aircraft. One damaged it just enough to bring it down. Powers survived, was captured, and put on trial in Moscow. The diplomatic fallout was catastrophic. Eisenhower initially claimed it was a weather research plane that strayed off course. Then Khrushchev revealed they had the pilot, the plane, and the spy cameras. The Paris summit collapsed. The Cold War escalated. The U-2 was suddenly vulnerable. But even as Powers stood trial, Kelly Johnson was already testing a solution. If altitude was no longer safe, there was only one option left: speed. Incredible, physics-defying speed. The SR-71, the fast solution, the SR-71 Blackbird, wasn't just a new aircraft, it was a different kind of machine. Everything about it broke rules. It was made of titanium bought secretly from the Soviet Union itself. Its Pratt & Whitney J58 engines were part turbojet, part ramjet. At Mach 3.2, 80% of its thrust came from just the inlet design. The numbers still astound: 2,200 miles per hour, 85,000 feet altitude, New York to London in 1 hour 54 minutes. The cockpit glass was made of pure quartz to withstand 600 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures. The fuel was specially formulated JP7 that could double as a coolant. The plane leaked fuel on the ground. Its titanium skin expanded so much in flight that it only sealed at operating temperature. But the Blackbird's true genius was in what it didn't do. It didn't get detected. Its radar cross-section was smaller than a dinner plate. If a missile launch was detected, the pilot just pushed the throttles. The Blackbird would outrun anything fired at it. Missions and myths. SR-71 missions were classified until the 1990s. But we now know they flew over every hotspot: Vietnam, North Korea, the Middle East, and yes, the Soviet Union. Their sensors could survey 100,000 square miles in an hour. One famous mission, during the 1973 Yom Kippur War, an SR-71 flew over the Sinai Peninsula, photographed the entire battlefront, and delivered film to the Pentagon before either side knew it had been there. The plane developed its own mythology. Pilots needed spacesuits. Takeoffs required afterburners. Landings needed a chase car to monitor the fragile tires. There's the story of an SR-71 being asked by air traffic control for its speed. The pilot replied, 1,800 knots. A Cessna pilot quipped, "I'm showing 1,900." The Blackbird pilot, "That's nuts, son." But reality was more impressive than myth. In 25 years of service, over 4,000 missiles were fired at SR-71s. None ever hit. The human cost, flying these machines, took extraordinary people. U-2 pilots faced 10-hour missions in cramped cockpits, constant danger of hypoxia if their pressure suits failed. SR-71 crews endured acceleration that could cause blackouts, temperatures that cooked their flight lunches, and the psychological strain of knowing they were alone in hostile skies. 32 U-2 pilots died in training accidents. 12 SR-71s were lost, though, amazingly, only one crew fatality. The planes were unforgiving. A U-2 pilot described landing as controlled crashing. An SR-71 pilot said taking off felt like being shot from a cannon. These weren't just pilots, they were engineer observers. They had to understand their aircraft's limits because at the edge of the envelope, there was no room for error. The technical legacy, the U-2 and SR-71, gave aviation technologies we still use today. The U-2 pioneered high-altitude flight systems that influenced commercial aviation pressurization. Its camera technology evolved into satellite imaging systems. The SR-71's contributions are everywhere. Titanium construction techniques used in modern fighters, stealth principles. That created the F-117 and B-2 engine technology that influenced the Concorde, and avionics that became the foundation for GPS and digital flight systems. Perhaps their greatest legacy was proving that with enough ingenuity, aviation could overcome what seemed like physical impossibilities. They showed that the sky wasn't the limit, it was just the beginning, the end, and aftermath. The U-2 continues flying today, over 65 years after its first flight. It still conducts reconnaissance missions, upgraded with digital systems and satellite links. The SR-71 was retired in 1998, replaced by satellites and drones, though rumors persist of successors still flying in secret. Both aircraft represent a unique moment when human pilots pushed machines to their absolute limits in the service of gathering information without firing a shot. In the darkest days of the Cold War, they provided the intelligence that prevented misunderstandings from becoming nuclear exchanges. The U-2 and SR-71 weren't just spy planes, they were expressions of a fundamental truth. In the competition between nations, technological innovation can be more powerful than weapons. They flew where no one thought aircraft could fly, did what no one thought possible, and in doing so, helped keep a fragile peace during humanity's most dangerous confrontation. While spy planes watched from above, another aviation revolution was happening at passenger level. Next time, we return to commercial aviation's most glamorous era, the birth of the jumbo jet.